So now we're going to talk about configuring your development environment. And in these first couple of videos, we're going to talk about integrated development environments, IDEs. And there's 4 different IDEs I'm going to talk to you about. There's Atom, which is this IDE right here. There's WebStorm, there's Sublime, and there's Dreamweaver. The takeaway from all of this, 2 takeaways, is that you should choose either Atom or WebStorm, and don't choose Sublime or Dreamweaver. So in the videos, I'm going to go over why. And then the second takeaway is you do not need to watch the next couple of videos. You do not need to watch all of the videos on the different IDEs, right? So I'm going to show you which IDE I like, which 2, these 2, and all that in just a second. But just watch the videos for the IDE you want to use, or if you're trying to compare between Sublime or trying to compare between WebStorm and Atom, then just watch the videos of WebStorm and Atom. But then you don't have to watch all of the next videos for each of the IDEs, just the one that you want. So this is configuring your development environment. And I want to take a second and just do a high-level overview of where we've been and where we're going. So I'm going to go to our course resource document, the index of videos, and you can get here by going to this URL right there. And then I'm going to scroll up to the index. So I'm just going to leave this here for a second in case you're writing that URL down. All right, you ready? Here we go. I'm going to scroll up to the index. And this is what we've covered so far. We've done the welcome. We've done the getting started section. We've done understanding the internet and the World Wide Web. We did an introduction to HTML and an introduction to CSS. And now we're doing configuring your environment, where we're going to look at IDEs. So this is the video we're on right now, integrated development environment. And then we're going to look at how do we become skilled with GitHub. So we're going to see all that stuff on GitHub. And then we're going to get into HTML essentials. So I wanted to give you a little bit of HTML and CSS before we got started, right? So you could see that. And then this big chunk right here, configuring your environment, this is super important. You have to have a good working environment, a good development environment, which is going to entail having a good IDE. So we're going to choose that here. And it's also going to entail getting GitHub up and working. So you have to use GitHub. Now this is a hurdle. There's going to be some winnowing here. So what is winnowing? Let me make this a little bit bigger. Right, and bring that up in size. So winnowing is separating the wheat from the chaff. And if you look this up on Wikipedia, you'll see this image here, right? Wheat and chaff being separated, and this old painting by some artist, maybe famous, right? Somebody's separating the wheat from the chaff. But this process right here, learning GitHub and choosing an IDE and getting it all up and running, is going to take a little bit of effort. For some people, it'll come totally easily. And for others, it'll be a little challenging. Well, this is where you really need to use your grit and just get through it. And this is part of the job of software development, of creating any type of software application, including web apps, right? You're going to have to overcome challenges. You're going to have to figure things out. You're going to have to solve problems. And I really like this about web programming, about all programming, because it's like a big puzzle. And how do we solve it? And you just keep working away at it, and you don't understand something. And then 6 months later, you've totally solved a bunch of challenges, and you completely understand things which 6 months previous were a mystery to you. But it was only by sticking with it, by having grit, by continuing to work against that frustration, like I can't figure it out, that you finally do figure it out. And everything that confused you 6 months ago will be like, oh, I totally get all that. So easy. And then there'll be a whole new set of things which confuse you. So that's the game. That's the game. And so a lot of people in classes, this is where they hit a little bit of a stumbling block. And I'm just encouraging you to have some grit and don't get blown away with the chaff. Be the wheat. Be the nutritious, the nutrient part. Be the good stuff. Stick with it, have grit, and get over these challenges. Okay, so the first thing is choosing an IDE. Here are the benefits of an IDE. IDEs help you in innumerable ways. Live preview is one of my favorites. So you're going to see live preview in action in a little bit. I don't know when, but eventually I'm going to show that to you. But as you write your code, you could have a second monitor that's showing your web page, and you could see, wow, as I write my code and format it, this is how the web page is changing in live preview. So that's one of the nice things about a good IDE, and both Atom and WebStorm do that. And then it also does all of this other stuff. So you could pause the video and read through it, but a lot of good things. So you really want to use an IDE. As I said, I recommend either Atom or WebStorm and not Sublime nor Dreamweaver. And I'll go over the reasons for that. Atom is the new kid on the block. Okay, WebStorm is built by JetBrains, who also builds IntelliJ, which is what Android Studio is built upon. And since at the college I teach at, we also teach web programming and Android Studio. We like our students to know JetBrains products, whether it's WebStorm, IntelliJ for Java, or Android Studio for doing Android apps. There's a lot of similarity between them. So we just teach JetBrains products. And I think that that's a really strong argument for choosing WebStorm, because it'll give you familiarity with JetBrains products, and then you'll be able to do, Android programming if you want to move into that later. It'll be a lot easier because you'll understand the environment. Atom is created by the same people who created GitHub. It's the new kid on the block. It's great. Sublime, which is this one down in the bottom, is the old kid on the block. There's a lot of people who still use it. They like it a lot. They're really familiar with it. They don't want to switch because there's a big switching cost when it comes to learning a new IDE. You have to figure out, oh, how do I do things in this IDE? So a lot of people still love Sublime and use it, but it's, for me, the old versions, and Atom is the new, better version. And then Dreamweaver, some people will recommend use Dreamweaver. Don't use Dreamweaver. Dreamweaver, even farther back than Sublime, was the popular choice, and it wrote a lot of code for you. It's a WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get, so you could just drag things onto a page and it writes all the code for you, and then you can look at the code. And so in some ways, that's an easy way to learn, but I really don't recommend it. So stay away from Dreamweaver. Choose either Atom or WebStorm, and we'll go over them. And then we're also going to learn GitHub. And so GitHub is like Facebook for code. It allows you to share your code. It keeps track of your code. It backs up your code. It allows you to roll your code back, so you could go back to like, oh, how was that 3 days ago, and get the code from 3 days ago, which has since been overwritten, right? So it does all of this wonderful stuff. And it's increasingly a way that employers are finding employees. They look at your GitHub account, they look at the code you wrote, right? Like that's de facto the standard, actually. It's not increasingly at all. That's the way that's your resume today as a programmer. So if that's in your future at all, you have to know GitHub to get work. And you have to have repositories. You have to have code up there that future employers can look at and say, whoa, good job, nice code. I've had students get inquiries after I've taught them GitHub, and they start putting code up. I've had them get inquiries from employers simply because they're like, hey, we saw your code on GitHub. We want to talk to you. All right, so that's what we're going to learn. This is the GitHub website. We've seen this some already, but I just want to make sure I point that out. And that's what we're going to learn in these next videos. We're going to see, first of all, how to set up our IDEs. And so I'm going to show you how to set them up, and just watch the video for the IDE you're interested in, WebStorm or Atom, or maybe watch them both to see it. And then I'm going to show you how to get GitHub up and running.